The Tower of Babel is one of the most enigmatic and compelling stories from ancient religious texts, bridging the line between myth, theology, archaeology, and historical speculation. According to the book of Genesis, following the Great Flood, humanity was united in language and purpose. They migrated eastward and settled in a plain called Shinar area. Many scholars equate with ancient Mesopotamia. There, mankind, driven by pride or perhaps ambition, decided to build a city and a tower with its top in the heavens as a monument to their unity and greatness. This act, however, displeased God in the biblical account. The divine response was swift and decisive. Humanity's single language was confounded. Communication collapsed, and the people were scattered across the earth. The city was named Babel, symbolizing confusion. But was this merely a story meant to explain linguistic diversity, or was there once a real structure so ambitious that it frightened those in power, divine or otherwise? To answer that, one must look to ancient Babylon, a civilization that flourished in what is now modern-day Iraq. Babylon was not only the capital of several Mesopotamian empires, but also a hub of architectural innovation. At the center of this city once stood Etemenanki, a massive ziggurat whose name means the foundation of heaven and earth. Keda, to the god Marduk, matched many of the biblical descriptions of Babel. According to historical accounts, such as those by Herodotus, the structure soared to nearly 300 feet and was constructed in 7 layers, each colored and symbolic, while modern archaeology has uncovered the foundations of Etemenanki. The complete scale and function of the tower remain subjects of debate. Some believe that Etemenanki and the Tower of Babel are one and the same, while others see the latter as a symbolic representation, a theological metaphor of hubris and divine order. Still, the possibility that the Genesis story is rooted in a real place cannot be dismissed. The Mesopotamians themselves had myths about sacred towers and heavens, and many cultures throughout the world share eerily similar stories of great constructions undone by divine or cosmic forces. Language itself lies at the heart of the Babel story. The sudden division of human speech is portrayed as both a punishment and a protective measure against unchecked human ambition. In reality, linguists know that language evolution is gradual, branching over millennia as human groups migrate and isolate. The Babel narrative may reflect an ancient awareness that communication breakdown leads to cultural division of truth that holds even today. There are also alternate theories, some speculative, others rooted in comparative mythology. For instance, the idea that Babel was not merely a tower, but some form of lost technology, or even an early attempt at communication with celestial beings, finds currency in fringe archaeology. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory suggest that the gods who came down were extraterrestrial visitors, displeased by humanity's technological reach. Others tied the tale to the Book of Enoch, which describes fallen angels who gave mankind forbidden knowledge, leading to chaos and divine retribution. The persistence of the Babel myth across cultures adds further intrigue. Sumerian, Mesoamerican, and South Asian traditions include stories of world trees, towers, or mountains connecting earth to sky, symbols of unity and transcendence. These recurring motifs suggest either a shared psychological archetype or perhaps, as some argue, a distant cultural memory of a common prehistoric experience. In literature and art, the Tower of Babel has become a symbol of overreaching ambition and the peril of pride. Artists like Peter Bruegel, the Elder, depicted it as a spiraling colossus, half-built and crumbling, surrounded by confusion. Writers have used it to explore themes of isolation, miscommunication, and the limits of human achievement. In modern times, the term Babel evokes digital noise, information overload, and the fragmentation of shared reality. But what if the tower had been completed? Would humanity have remained united under one language, one culture? Oh, would such unity have led to authoritarian control, a loss of diversity, A civilization too centralized to adapt? The unanswered questions surrounding the Tower of Babel invite us not only to ponder ancient history, but also to examine the forces that shape human society today. Was the Tower of Babel real? Perhaps not in the literal sense of Genesis, but as a symbol. It endures into our collective imagination. It speaks to a moment when humanity dreamed of reaching the heavens, only to be reminded of its fragility. Whether built of brick or belief, Babel remains one of history's greatest mysteries. Imagine a time when the earth was young, when the soil still remembered the warmth of its creation, and when rivers cut fresh paths across the fertile plains. Humanity had only just begun to scatter across this vast blue world. But there was a moment brief in the eternity of time when humankind stood united. They spoke a single tongue, shared a single dream, and gazed up at the same sky with equal wonder. It is here, in the cradle of our forgotten beginnings, that the story of the Tower of Babel begins. Tonight, as you close your eyes and drift into sleep, allow me to guide you through shadowed corridors of time. Let us journey together into the mysteries that lie buried beneath sand and legend, into a tale whispered by winds across ruined cigarettes. A tale that some say holds secrets even older than the stars. Long before the birth of empires, before the rise of pharaohs and Caesars, there was a plain in the land of Shinar later, known to us as Mesopotamia. The people of this land were unlike us in one crucial way. They all spoke the same language. Words were their bridge, binding hearts and ambitions. They lived without borders, without the confusion of dialects. Trade flourished, not because of silver or spices, but because trust required no translation. Families from distant valleys mingled freely. Craftsmen from the east shared secrets with farmers from the west. Even their disputes ended swiftly, for there was no misunderstanding, no twisted meanings, but unity bred ambition. As the years flowed like the slow Euphrates, these early humans grew restless. They gazed at the sky, not in fear, but in envy. Why should the heavens be reserved for gods alone? They asked. A council was formed under the blazing sun, where elders, warriors, scholars, and dreamers gathered. There, on clay seats beneath palm fronds, they wove a daring idea. We shall build a tower, one elder declared, eyes glinting with the reflection of stars. A tower so tall it pierces the very vault of heaven, so that we may speak to the gods as equals. Cheers rose. The idea spread like wildfire, carried on that single universal tongue, until even children sang songs of the coming tower. They chose a site at the very heart of Shinar. Here, the earth was firm, the clay rich, perfect for bricks. Kilns roared day and night, spewing black smoke that twisted into shapes like dark omens. Workers toiled in great lines, passing bricks hand to hand. Architects drew plans in the dirt with sharp sticks, arguing over angles and arches. The tower rose slowly, but inevitably. Each new level brought them closer to the sky, and the people celebrated with dances and feasts. Birds flew lower, curious or confused by this strange intrusion into their realm. But as the tower climbed, something odd began to happen. Workers reported strange hums at night, vibrations in the ground that were not caused by hammers or footsteps. Faint lights, blue, green, sometimes a cold white, flickered among the scaffolding long after the fires were doused. Some dismissed it as fatigue, others whispered of spirits displeased by human arrogance. A few even claimed to see figures in the mist, tall and thin, with faces that glowed where eyes should have been. Yet the building continued. Pride outweighed caution, and the tower clawed higher and higher. Each brick a declaration against the boundaries of mortality. Years passed. The children who had once sung songs of the tower now labored on its walls. Generations began to measure time by the tower's shadow, but not all was well. Dreams became troubled. Men woke screaming of vast eyes peering through cracks in the sky, of voices that spoke in chimes and pulses instead of words. Cattle were found mutilated, arranged in patterns only visible from the tower's heights. Priests held rituals to soothe what they believed were the angered gods. They burned incense and offered grain. Yet, each night, the strange lights returned, dancing just beyond the reach of torch flames. Then came the storm. It rolled across Shinar without warning, a black spiral that swallowed sunlight. From the tower's top, the clouds seemed almost alive, reaching tendrils toward the spire as if eager to touch it. Lightning struck again and again, ever the ground. Always the tower until bricks glowed red hot and cracked. When the storm finally passed, they counted the dead. Hundreds, their bodies marked by burns that did not resemble fire. Still, the elders refused to halt construction. This is proof. They insisted. The gods fear us, and so they strike at our ambition. We must finish what we began. What happened next has been told 1,000 ways. In holy books, it is written that a divine hand scattered languages to humble mankind. In secret scrolls locked in Vatican vaults. There are darker accounts that speak of a falling star which hovered over the tower for 7 nights. In these accounts, a bright object descended from the heavens. It was not a comet, for it moved with purpose, stopping directly above the tower. Witnesses described beams of light so brilliant they erased the stars. A sound, neither thunder nor music, crawled across Shinar, making men clutch their heads in agony. When dawn broke, chaos reigned. Workers tried to speak to one another, but only gibberish emerged. Friends looked at each other with terror, unable to understand. Fathers wept as they failed to calm crying children who now spoke in strange alien syllables. Mistrust blossomed overnight. Fights broke out over tools, over food, over nothing at all. Small clans retreated into camps, each bound by whatever new tongue they happened to share. The tower stood incomplete, a jagged wound against the sky. Birds nested in its half-finished arches. Wild dogs roamed its halls, howling through the empty corridors. Shinar fractured. Families packed what they could carry and wandered away, chasing rivers and game. The plane that had once hummed with a single heartbeat fell silent, except for the lonely wind that rustled through broken scaffolds. Yet, the story does not end there. Among the exiles were scribes who tried to record what had happened, scratching symbols into clay tablets. Some of these tablets survived the ages, buried deep until modern spades uncovered them. Their symbols remain largely undeciphered, save for recurring images. Tall figures with large, dark eyes. Wheels within wheels hovering above the ground. Lines of people led by beings carrying rods that glowed. Some scholars dismiss these as early art, imagination run wild in a time of fear. Others see troubling patterns, linking these images to carvings found in distant Lansalmic heads in the jungles of Mesoamerica or petroglyphs in the Australian outback. How could people divided by oceans draw the same elongated heads, the same floating discs? There are even legends preserved by remote tribes that strangers came after Babel's fall. They offered guidance, taught new words, and sometimes demanded blood sacrifices in exchange for forbidden knowledge. Who were these visitors? Gods, as the people believed? Or something else, older and stranger, whose motives we still cannot fathom? Today, beneath the dusty streets of modern Iraq, archaeologists continue to dig. Some claim to have found the foundations of the original Tower of Babel near Babylon's ruins. Layers of brick and bitumen tell stories of sudden abandonment, of fire and structural collapse. In nearby towns, locals tell stories of night sounds, metallic whines, low hums that seem to vibrate through stone. Shepherds report lights that drift over the plain without torch or flame. Satellite imagery sometimes reveals odd scorch patterns in nearby fields. Scientists attribute these to natural phenomena, lightning, or chemical runoff. But at night, standing alone where the winds of Shinar still blow, it's hard to dismiss the feeling that eyes are watching from above. Close your eyes. Listen, not just with your ears, but with the gentle thread of your heart. Imagine a time before time as we counted. A time when human memory was still tender, like dew upon morning grass. The world itself seemed younger, breathing slower, its winds carrying scents unpolluted by iron and smoke, across vast plains that would one day be called Mesopotamia. Rivers wound like silver serpents. The Euphrates and Tigris carved stories into the flesh of the land, cradling ancient soil that hummed with fertility. In this land of sun and shadow, humanity found its first great unity. There were no nations yet. No lines scratched across maps by greedy hands. No flags to wave, no borders to defend. Only tribes, families, clans who gathered by the water's edge, their voices joined in a single melodious tongue. And with this unity came dreams. Dreams as tall as the sky. Dreams that would climb from dust toward the glittering arms of the cosmos. It is here, dear listener, that our long night's journey begins. In the breath between heartbeat and sleep, we shall wander together through this old world. We shall follow whispered tales of the Tower of Babel woven from clay, sweat, ambition, and perhaps, something else, something watching from beyond. Tonight, let your mind drift back through ages. Walk the warm paths of the first cities. Smell the oil lamps burning. Hear the children's laughter echo across open courtyards. And listen, always listen, for in this story, there are truths spoken only to the dreaming. In that ancient dawn, humans shared a single language. It was more than just words. Their speech carried a resonance, a kind of warm music that stitched minds together. To speak was to understand perfectly, without hesitation. Merchants from distant sands met under palm trees and exchanged not just goods, but ideas. Philosophers debated under open skies, their words dancing like fireflies, leaving trails of luminous thought. Lovers wooed each other with poems that seemed to grow lush flowers wherever syllables fell. No one truly felt alone, for the voice of one could echo comfortably in the hearts of many. Under a great tent, woven from reeds and dyed with bright ochre, leaders of the scattered peoples met. Elders leaned on carved staves. Warriors stood with bronze blades crossed behind them. Seers clutched amulets of bone and turquoise. At the center stood the old woman Ishuma, her hair silver as moonlight. Her eyes, clouded by age, seemed to peer beyond mere sight. "We have prospered," she began, her voice as rich as tilled earth. "We have filled these lands with our children. Now we must honor the breath that has brought us this far." A young mason, bold with sun-dark skin and bright teeth, stepped forward. "Let us build a tower, taller than any tree, taller than any hill. A gift to the heavens, so they might know our names." A hush fell. The idea was dangerous, audacious, but as silence stretched, a thrill sparked through the crowd. Someone laughed, light and fearless. Then another. Soon the tent rang with voices in joyous agreement. The tower would be more than stone, it would be a statement that humanity was no longer earthbound, that even the stars could not ignore them. Days became weeks, weeks unspooled into months. The plain of Shinar transformed into a forest of scaffolds and brick piles. Hundreds gathered, then thousands. Camps sprawled outward like webs spun by patient spiders. Kilns glowed at all hours, their smoke a constant offering to the sky. Mud was stamped by children's feet, then baked into bricks, hard as ambition itself. Bitumen oozed from nearby pits, sticky as night's secrets, binding each layer. At first, the tower was little more than a clever mound, but soon it rose above even the tallest huts, thin above the oldest trees. Then, astonishingly, it began to dwarf the distant hills. Songs were composed to mark each new height. Drummers beat rhythms that echoed off scaffolds, urging workers to move faster, higher. At night, bonfires lit the levels, and the tower stood like a candle stabbing upward into the dark. Yet, as the tower climbed, so too did strangeness. Masons reported hearing faint tones, almost like voices, emanating from within the newly laid bricks. They laughed at off-stone settling, air escaping cracks, but the sounds grew clearer. Sometimes they seemed to form words none could translate, words that made even the fearless drop their tools and rub at the fine hairs standing along their arms. Animals refused to approach the base. Dogs whimpered, pulling against their leashes. A sheep bleated wildly, eyes rolling. Still, humans pressed on, for ambition can be a fever, and once caught, it rarely breaks until the patient lies cold. People began to dream, strangely and vividly. They found themselves standing atop the completed tower, though by day it was far from finished. Above them hung unfamiliar constellations, arrangements of lights not seen in any earthly sky. Moons, multiple and bruised, drifted close enough to reach. In these dreams, they heard voices that bypassed ears entirely, vibrating directly in bone and marrow. Sometimes these voices promised wonders. Sometimes they offered threats. Always, they left dreamers waking in sweat, gasping words their loved ones could not understand. One day, as the sun bled its last overshine hour, a figure appeared at the tower's highest scaffold. None saw him arrive. He simply stood there, garbed in robes woven of dust and shadow. Workers watched from below, afraid to call out, for even at that distance, they felt his regarda heavy pressure, like being held underwater. He lifted a hand. Slowly, inexorably, the bricks near him began to tremble, then melt, running down the tower's flank like tears. When he vanished, nothing remained of the highest level. Not the timber beams, not the copper nails, just a hollow place that seemed to drink the sunlight. Rumors spread like wildfire. See a god, a demon, an angel come to chastise. Or something else, something for which humans had no proper word. But the final calamity did not come with the roar of armies or the cracking of the earth. It came softly, like a lover's whisper. At first, families gathered for an evening meal noticed odd lapses. A father would ask for bread, but his wife frowned, hearing only a string of meaningless syllables. Children burst into tears, unable to soothe each other. By dawn, Shinar was a cacophony of babel. Neighbors shouted at one another, gesturing wildly. Old alliances collapsed. Fights broke out over misunderstandings. Blood darkened the dust. Above it all loomed the unfinished tower, catching the morning light on stones that no longer sang in harmony, but hissed with fractured echoes. Groups packed what they could and fled. Some followed the rivers to distant deltas. Others struck out into dry deserts, hoping to find friendlier gods. Along the way, each clan's speech twisted further until the old language was dead, buried under countless dialects. Left behind, the tower became a haunt for scavengers. Wolves nested in its hollow corridors. Vines crept up its sides, gripping stone with green fingers. Travelers who dared to camp near its base awoke to find strange marks carved into the earth around them. Circles within circles, spirals that seemed to pulse faintly by starlight. Thousands of years passed. New civilizations rose. Sumer, Egypt, the Indus. Each told stories of gods descending on beams of light, teaching them how to build, how to speak. Across oceans, on islands unmarked by any map, priests carved similar stories into cave walls. In South America, towering statues with elongated skulls and staring eyes were raised long before Inca or Maya. Why did cultures separated by vast gulfs of water and time all remember beings who came from above? Why did they all build towers, ziggurats, Pyramids reaching upward, always upward, as if in answer to some primal call. Today, archaeologists brush aside dust in Iraqi ruins and dream of headlines. They uncover bricks stamped with ancient seals, burnt in strange patterns, as if exposed to heat beyond any kiln's capacity. Night teams sometimes report equipment failure. Batteries drain in minutes, lights flicker and die. In these moments, some swear they hear voices speaking, not in any known tongue, but in that same resonant vibration that once joined all humanity. Local shepherds will not camp near these ruins. They speak of distant fires that hover above the ground, of sheep found arranged in spirals come dawn. Always, they warn, do not listen if it calls your name. In the centuries after Babel's collapse, the world reshaped itself. People wandered into forests so thick the sun forgot to shine, over mountains dusted in frost older than memory. They took their new tongues with them, cradling them like fragile infants. Words changed with every valley crossed, every river forded. Soon, songs that once could have been sung in harmony now clashed in discord. Where once there was a single people, there became hundreds, then thousands. Each small tribe convinced their tongue was the true speech of gods. War was inevitable. Misunderstanding bred suspicion. Trade routes became battlegrounds. Feuds were passed down, carved into the bones of children long before they knew how to wield a blade. The earth itself seemed to grieve. Rivers changed course, swallowing villages. Mountains belched ash and stone. Some wondered if the land was trying to bury the memory of unity forever. Yet there were those who remembered. Hidden among high plateaus or deep deserts, small groups clung to fragments of the first tongue. They called themselves the keepers of breath. Each generation selected a child, teaching them the old resonance, a secret way of shaping the throat and chest that could echo deeper truths. These children grew to adulthood carrying the haunting burden of memory. When they spoke the old words, animals paused, heads tilted. Winds sometimes changed direction. Flames bent toward them. Legends claimed they could still hear the tower, though fallen and silent to most. It whispered to them in sighs felt under the ribs, vibrating like ghostly harp strings. Every century or so, stories surfaced of pilgrims drawn by dreams to Shiner's Plain. They came from snowfields where auroras danced like spirits, from sun-blasted shores where sand sang beneath bare feet. None shared the same language, but all shared the same vision, a towering spiral stretching beyond clouds, beckoning them to come. Their caravans met by accident, converging on half-buried roads. At first, there was fear, weapons drawn, curses hurled, but slowly they realized they shared symbols burned into the backs of their eyelid spirals. Circles within circles, eyes surrounded by radiant lines. So they camped together. Fires crackled under unfamiliar stars. They tried to speak, failing and laughing, drawing patterns in the dust instead. One by one, they approached the ruins. The remains of Babel no longer soared, but descended craters where once walls rose, as if the earth had swallowed its shame. There, under moonlight, they lay upon the stones, pressing ears against the cold rock, hoping to hear the faint thrumming pulse of something not yet dead. That night, all pilgrims shared the same dream. They stood in a vast labyrinth, made not of hedges or walls, but of shifting light and shadow. Each turn revealed scenes from other worlds, oceans with violet tides, forests of crystal that chimed in alien winds, cities made of bones under black suns. Voices spoke from nowhere and everywhere at once. Words were felt more than heard, a vibration in teeth and spine. Do you seek to climb again? The voices asked. Or shall you fall, as before, into the comfort of dust? Some pilgrims tried to run. The labyrinth swallowed them, floors vanishing into dark chasms. They stood still, tears streaming, unable to look away from vistas that twisted reality. When they awoke, they found new scars upon their skin spirals burned into shoulders, words in unknown scripts crawling along their ribs. In our modern age, we dig everywhere. We carve highways through sacred valleys, split mountains for iron and salt, so it was inevitable that men with machines would come to Shinar again. They called themselves archaeologists, but their hearts belonged to investors far away, who demanded treasures from museum halls and private vaults. Their drills bit deep past foundations of the old tower, through layers of older cities crushed beneath history. There, they found chambers that did not match the geology, walls smooth as glass, etched with lines that glowed faintly when no lights were present. Night guards reported equipment flickering. Voices spoke on radios that were turned off. One man vanished entirely, leaving only boot prints that ended at a perfect circle of scorched earth. Deeper still, they uncovered a vast hollow, roofed by a dome without seams. No tool could scratch its surface. When workers set torches inside, the flames dimmed, as if shamed by some older illumination. Standing in the center, some claimed to hear the first language, the old breath spoken not by any mouth, but by the walls themselves. The sounds bypassed comprehension, plunging straight into memory, awakening terrors and wonders both. Several workers collapsed. One began laughing, clawing at his own skin, crying, "I see them. I see the ones who watch the watchers." He died with eyes wide, pupils blown so large the irises vanished. Across the world, from hidden monasteries in the Himalayas, 2 stone circles buried in the Scottish moors, old guardians stirred. They lit ancient fires, burning herbs that released smokes of colors unseen by most eyes. They chanted words their ancestors swore never to utter again, for they too felt it. The Tower of Babel, though shattered, was awakening. Perhaps it was something deeper that the tower had merely perched upon a presence that now stretched once more. At night, strange lights danced across skies. Livestock were found arranged in perfect geometries. Storms rose without warning, carving spirals into farmland. Prophets, madmen, and children across continents spoke the same cryptic lines in dozens of tongues. The tower stands in the breath between seconds. We climbed once, we fell, we'll climb again, by invitation or by compulsion. The old ones remembered the taste of us. Governments hushed these things. Media ridiculed them as collective hysteria. But in darkened war rooms and hidden labs, men with cold eyes studied the data satellite anomalies, seismic murmurs that mapped not to fault lines, but to vast moving patterns beneath the crust. Now, dear listener, sink deeper into your pillow, for this is where the tale wraps around you like a serpent. Tonight, every sleeper across the globe shares one vast dream. You stand once more at the base of Babel, though now it stretches forever, winding into a sky studded with colors no human tongue can name. You begin to climb. Steps of glass, steps of blood, steps of solidified size. Each level opens a window into another soul, sometimes yours, sometimes strangers long dead, sometimes not human at all. Voices merge into a single note, so profound it shakes tears from your eyes. You understand then, beyond thought, why your ancestors built, why they failed, why they might try again. And at the tower's infinite peak, there is no air. Only stars crowd close, whispering secrets that fracture the mind. Yet, instead of breaking, you find yourself laughing, a bright, helpless sound. You reach out a hand, another hand of light and shadow meets yours. You cannot say if it is God, demon, or simply the echo of Babel itself. It pulls you forward. Together, you tumble upward, ever upward, into spirals that turn inside out, birthing universes in your wake. Sleep now, sleep forever if you must. The tower will hold your dreams gently and whisper the first true language in your ear until dawn. You stand again at the base of the tower, but this time it is not made of bricks. It is woven from your memories, stitched together by dreams you forgot having. You place one foot upon the first stair. You hear every step you've ever taken echo back. Childhood footfalls on warm mud. The slap of sandals in crowded markets. Bare feet fleeing something in the dark. Each echo does not fade, but layers upon the next, until the stairway hums with the music of your entire life. As you ascend, you pass ghostly shapes. A woman in furs, carrying a child who weeps without tears. A warrior with tattoos that swirl under his skin, eyes wide as if seeing something far beyond you. An old man whose spine curls backward unnaturally, whispering syllables that crawl like insects across your shoulders. They do not block your path, they simply watch. Some reach out trembling hands, as though hoping to steal a breath of your warmth. Others clutch amulets that glow with internal light. The tower opens into a market. It should be impossible. There should be no streets inside a stairway. Yet here are stalls draped in fabrics that change color when you look directly at them. Merchants, with too many joints in their fingers, beckon you closer. Tables hold jars of swirling lights, cages of insects that hum in dissonant chords, knives carved from frozen screams. You buy nothing. Still, as you walk on, your pockets feel heavier. Higher still, and the air thins. You emerge onto a platform under a sky so filled with stars, they almost outnumber the dark. The stars sing. Each one emits a tone, some low and mournful, others bright and playful. Together, they form a choir so vast it seems to pull tears from the marrow of your bones. You look up until your neck aches, somewhere high above. You swear you see a colossal face peering down, its expression unreadable, eyes like whirlpools. You try to look away. You cannot. When you finally break your gaze, you find yourself descending instead of climbing. The steps spiral downward into shadow, the air thick with the scent of damp stone and forgotten sacrifices. Torches line the walls, but their flames are black, casting illumination that makes your own hands appear hollow. Here, you meet creatures that once were human, their mouths open too wide, filled with languages your mind shies away from. They sing of Babel's true cost, of bargains struck beneath the roots of the world, of gods who are not gods, but memories that refuse to fade. You wake to a field drenched in silver mist. Your breath coils into shapes that float, pause, then drift away, as if recalling memories they can't quite speak. The ground is soft, whispering under your feet with every hesitant step. In the distance stands the tower, though it's now woven of dark vines and pale flowers that open and close in silent rhythm. Every blossom has an eye at its center, following you, blinking wetly, reflecting your face twisted by wonder. You feel the pull again, gentle yet undeniable, drawing you toward the tower's base. Stones here seem alive, pulsing with a quiet heartbeat that resonates in your chest, as if remembering your own fragile pulse. As you press your hand against one warm stone, visions unfurl behind your eyes. Children singing in a courtyard of shattered mirrors. A sun that splits into 3 rivers, flowing backward toward mountains that dissolve into ash. Your feet move without command, carrying you through a narrow arch. Inside, corridors spiral endlessly. The walls breathe. With every inhale, shadows lengthen. With every exhale, the floor seems to shiver beneath your weight. You hear voices, but see no mouths. They chant words in the first language, the lost unity tongue, so beautiful and mournful, you nearly weep. Each phrase tangles inside you, roots twining around your heart. You climb stairs carved from old bones. Tiny lights drift past, pausing by your ear to murmur things you once feared in childhood. Some laugh, a brittle sound like dried leaves snapping underfoot. Far above, the ceiling dissolves into a vast sky. Stars burn low and swollen, close enough to taste. Their light is thick, sweet, laced with sorrow that sticks to your throat when you swallow. A hand slips into yours. Skin is cool, smooth, not quite human. It squeezes once, reassuring, then leads you forward. You don't look at its face, afraid of what familiarity you might find. Together, you step onto a bridge made of nothing but sighs. Each step releases faint echoes of grief, someone's mother calling, a lover's final breath, laughter that ends too abruptly. The bridge trembles but holds. On the far side, you enter a hall filled with water to your knees. It is perfectly still, reflecting a night sky swirling with constellations that move, rearrange themselves into symbols, then break apart again. With each slow stride, your reflection alters. At first, it is you, then an older version, then someone else entirely. 1,000 faces shimmer beneath the surface, all watching you with patient curiosity. You whisper your own name, hoping to anchor yourself. The water responds, rippling outward in delicate rings, carrying your name away, letting it scatter into syllables with no meaning. In the center of this flooded hall stands a single pillar, covered in carvings that crawl slowly like insects. They rearrange to show a tower reaching ever upward, then cracking, crumbling, growing again in twisted forms. You lay your palm against the pillar. A sharp pain blooms, then fades. When you pull away, a mark glows faintly therein, eyes surrounded by spiral lines, blinking once before sinking into your skin. Suddenly, you are outside the tower again. It looms impossibly high, scraping the edge of dawn's fragile light. The vines pulse, the flowers watch, the stones remember you. You realize you've walked this path countless times. As the first sun rays spilled across the field, the tower seems to sigh. A warm wind carries scents of burnt honey, old blood, crushed petals. You close your eyes, letting it wash over you, uncertain if it comforts or warns. A whisper slides past your ear, close enough to brush your skin. It asks if you will build again, if your hands long to shape stones, to chase the heights no matter the price. You feel your fingers twitch, hungry. When you open your eyes, you are back at the field's edge, the tower still waiting. Your footprints lead both toward and away from it, tangled paths that make no sense. Above, the sky is full of watching stars. And so you step forward, pulled by a promise you can't quite name, heart thundering with dread and desire. Ready to begin the endless climb once more, even knowing it leads to ruins, to whispers, to the dream that never ends. You hear a bell far away, its note long and hollow, ringing through corridors of fog. Each chime feels like it lands on your spine, vibrating through your bones, stirring memories you aren't sure are truly yours. Through the drifting haze, shapes flicker. You see a procession carrying lanterns that glow with trapped laughter. Their faces are hidden behind masks shaped like weeping moons. They move without sound, feet never touching the earth. A scent rises, smoke and salt, old parchment, tears dried on sun-baked stone. It tugs at something deep in your chest. You follow without question, your feet finding the same silent rhythm, pulled along by an ache you can't name. The ground changes. What was once grass becomes a mosaic of tiny mirrors. Each step shatters a reflection, sending up small clouds of silver dust. In those broken fragments, you glimpse cities burning, oceans swallowing statues. The path narrows to a bridge made of woven hair. It sways under your weight, humming softly. Below, a chasm opens into swirling darkness, speckled with slow-turning galaxies. You cross with breath held, feeling old prayers rise in your throat. On the other side, where it's a child, with eyes like polished obsidian, they hold out a bundle wrapped in gray cloth. When you take it, it sighs a tiny, exhausted sound. You feel its weight sink into your arms, heavier than grief. You try to unwrap it, but the cloth coils tighter. The child shakes their head slowly, then vanishes in a ripple of shadow, that smells faintly of mint and ashes. You stand alone, clutching the burden to your chest, heartbeat fluttering against it. A doorway yawns open before you, formed by twisting roots that part with creaks of strained patience. Beyond lies a hallway lined with paintings that watch you. Their eyes are wide with recognition, mouths puckered as if ready to speak. You walk slowly, feeling your pulse throb in your palms. The faces on the walls seem to follow you, blinking languidly. One mouth opens, releasing a single feather that drifts down, brushing your cheek with a whisper of forgiveness. At the hall's end waits a well filled, not with water, but with softly glowing moths. They whirl and tumble, forming delicate spirals that mirror the mark still faint on your hand. You lean close, breathing in their light. It tastes like old secrets, sweet and bruised. You close your eyes and find yourself falling forward, sinking into the well. The moths break apart into tiny pulses of warmth that slip beneath your skin, making your veins hum. When you land, it's on cool marble. You open your eyes to find a vast library with shelves that curl upward beyond sight, stacked with books bound in scales, petals, thin slices of cloud. A faint music plays somewhere between your ribs. You pick up a book. Its cover breathes softly. When you open it, the pages bleed a dark ink that forms tiny dancers, twirl across your hands, leaving trails that burn slightly but feel tender, almost affectionate. The dancers whisper to you in a language you once knew. Something about tides, about towers that dream of being trees, about voices buried under mountains. You nod, though you understand only enough to feel tears. Well, you move deeper into the library, the shelves bowing toward you as if eager for attention. Books open on their own, releasing sighs, small birds made of dust, fragments of lullabies. You keep walking, collecting these small wonders in your heart. At the library's heart stands a pool of perfectly still liquid silver. When you peer in, you see yourself, but your reflection changes. Your eyes become dark suns. Your hands sprout tiny blossoms that breathe. Your mouth curls with a knowing older than Babel. You reach toward the surface. It ripples under your touch, sending gentle waves that sing in voices layered 1,000 deep. They call you by names you didn't know you possessed, names that pull aches of longing from your chest. Suddenly, you are outside again. The tower looms nearby, its height lost in low-hanging storm clouds. Lightning crawls lazily across its face, illuminating runes that glow briefly then fade. The air tastes of iron and ripe fruit. You realize your steps have led you here countless times, though the path is always different. Each visit carves new hollows into your heart, new chambers for sorrow and awe to dwell side by side, whispering to each other in the dark. You feel a pressure at your back, gentle but insistent. Turning, you find another doorway opening, this one framed by wings of soft amber light. You step through without hesitation, guided by a trust that tastes like forgotten lullabies. Inside is a garden lit by tiny, floating flames. Flowers with faces murmur greetings as you pass. Vines gently wrap your wrists in cool affection. Somewhere, a fountain laughs, each droplet ringing like glass kissed by wind. You sit at its edge, closing your eyes, listening to your breath slow. The garden seems to breathe with you. Petals fall into your lap, each one carrying a tiny story. A kiss under plum trees. A promise whispered across a battlefield, a child's giggle. As you drift, the tower sings to you, low and full, vibrating through the garden soil, through your bones, all the way into your dreaming marrow. It does not demand you build. It merely asks that you remember. You fall backward into soft moss, eyes fluttering closed. The world tilts gently, cradling you in arms made of old songs and tender shadows. You sleep, and the tower waits patiently, knowing you will walk its spirals again when dawn returns. You wake somewhere new. The air here is thick, sweet, heavy with the scent of ripe figs and distant rain. Each breath feels like swallowing velvet, clinging to your throat, comforting and slightly suffocating all at once. A soft blue glow curls around your feet. Looking down, you see tiny insects made of light, each carrying a droplet of darkness on its back. They scuttle away when you move, leaving faint trails that quickly vanish. Ahead stands an archway formed from twisted roots, woven together so tightly not even shadows can slip through. Yet they part for you, sighing in relief, as if holding back breaths too long, kept inside ancient lungs. Inside, a hallway stretches endlessly, floor polished to mirrors that show not just you, but countless versions. Some look away, ashamed. Others grin with mouths too wide, teeth too many, hands pressing to the glass as though begging. You walk carefully, each step echoing with laughter that doesn't belong to you. It skips down the hall ahead, leading you deeper. The air grows cooler, threaded with whispers that rise and fall like small waves. At the hallway's end stands a door of dark stone, veins of soft green light pulsing through it. When you touch it, warmth spreads up your arm. The door dissolves into falling ash, leaving you blinking in a sudden open space. You stand upon a balcony overlooking a vast city of towers. Some spiral, others seem to float above shifting rivers of golden mist. Bridges leap from spire to spire, carrying creatures draped in robes that flow like water. One looks up at you, though impossibly far. Its eyes catch yours, bright pinpricks of silver in a face hidden by shadows. A slow nod, then it turns away, merging with others in a procession that winds down endless steps. A wind rises, carrying songs so old they seem carved into the very air. You lean into it, letting it wrap around your shoulders, tasting salt and crushed mint, each note a tiny ache in your ribs. Without warning, the balcony crumbles under your feet. You fall, not with terror, but with the calm of someone who's fallen many times before. Air rushes past, cool fingers stroking your face, murmuring half-forgotten lullabies. You land softly on a field of glowing moss. It sighs beneath your weight, tiny motes drifting up to dance around your head. Somewhere nearby, water trickles, singing in voices that overlap gently, speaking in riddles that soothe. You rise, following the sound. A small stream cuts through the moss, its water dark, filled with drifting petals that pulse faintly. As you step into it, the cold climbs your legs, a shocking kindness that draws a shiver from deep inside. The stream carries you, though you still walk. It guides you through arches formed of bone, over stones that hum with deep, patient songs. Along the banks, statues, half buried in moss watch with hollow eyes, their lips curved in secret mirth. Eventually, the stream widens into a pool, so still it seems solid. Beneath the surface, shapes swim slowly, fish with human hands, eels twined in braids of hair, luminous eyes blinking up as if pleased to see you. You kneel, cupping the dark water to your lips. It tastes of cloves and regret, yet goes down sweet. A warmth blooms in your chest, unfurling tendrils that wrap around your heart, squeezing gently. When you stand again, your reflection ripples into something unfamiliar. Your skin etched with tiny spirals, your eyes bright with distant fires. You smile, though it feels like someone else guiding your mouth, shaping your joy. Round you, the moss glows brighter, rising in slow waves that brush your ankles, calves, hips, until you're cocooned in living green. It murmurs to you in soft syllables, telling stories of towers you've yet to climb. When the glow fades, you stand alone on dark soil. The tower is there again, closer than before. Its walls writhe with shifting carvings that breathe, exhaling fine dust that settles on your shoulders like blessings or curses. You step toward it, feeling the ground hum in recognition. Each footprint leaves behind tiny blooms that open, sigh, then wither, folding back into the waiting earth. They seem content to vanish, as if this is their sole purpose. At the tower's threshold, an arch of twisting gold frames the entrance. Figures stand on either side, draped in robes of moving shadow. Their faces are blank mirrors, reflecting your expectant, trembling expression back at you. They raise their hands in silent greeting, palms marked by slow turning spirals. You mimic the gesture, feeling a gentle pressure at your temples, like soft fingertips pressing there. It eases the anxious flutter in your chest. You wake somewhere new. The air here is thick, sweet, heavy, with the scent of ripe figs and distant rain. Each breath feels like swallowing velvet, clinging to your throat, comforting and slightly suffocating all at once. Soft blue glow curls around your feet. Looking down, you see tiny insects made of light, each carrying a droplet of darkness on its back. Scuttle away when you move, leaving faint trails that quickly vanish. Ahead stands an archway formed from twisted roots, woven together so tightly, not even shadows can slip through. Yet, they part for you, sighing in relief, as if holding back breath too long kept inside ancient lungs. Inside, a hallway stretches endlessly, floor-polished to mirrors that show not just you, but countless versions. Some look away, ashamed. Others grin with mouths too wide, teeth too many, hands pressing to the glass as though begging. You walk carefully, each step echoing with laughter that doesn't belong to you. It skips down the hall ahead, leading you deeper. The air grows cooler, threaded with whispers that rise and fall like small waves. At the hallway's end stands a door of dark stone, veins of soft green light pulsing through it. When you touch it, warmth spreads up your arm. The door dissolves into falling ash, leaving you blinking in a sudden open space. You stand upon a balcony overlooking a vast city of towers. Some spiral, others seem to float above shifting rivers of golden mist. Bridges leap from spire to spire, carrying creatures draped in robes that flow like water. One looks up at you, though impossibly far. Its eyes catch yours, bright pinpricks of silver in a face hidden by shadows. A slow nod, then it turns away, merging with others in a procession that winds down endless steps. A wind rises, carrying songs so old they seem carved into the very air. You lean into it, letting it wrap around your shoulders, tasting salt and crushed mint, each note a tiny ache in your ribs. Without warning, the balcony crumbles under your feet. You fall, not with terror, but with the calm of someone who's fallen many times before. Air rushes past, cool fingers stroking your face, murmuring half-forgotten lullabies. You land softly on a field of glowing moss. It sighs beneath your weight, tiny motes drifting up to dance around your head. Somewhere nearby, water trickles, singing in voices that overlap gently, speaking in riddles that soothe. You rise, following the sound. A small stream cuts through the moss, its water dark, filled with drifting petals that pulse faintly. As you step into it, the cold climbs your legs, a shocking kindness that draws a shiver from deep inside. The stream carries you, though you still walk. It guides you through arches formed of bone, over stones that hum with deep, patient songs. Along the banks, statues half buried in moss watch with hollow eyes, their lips curved in secret mirth. Eventually, the stream widens into a pool, so still it seems solid. Beneath the surface, shapes swim slowly, fish with human hands, eels twined in braids of hair, luminous eyes blinking up as if pleased to see you. You kneel, cupping the dark water to your lips, taste of cloves and regret, yet goes down sweet. Warmth blooms in your chest, unfurling tendrils that wrap around your heart, squeezing gently. When you stand again, your reflection ripples into something unfamiliar. Your skin etched with tiny spirals, your eyes bright with distant fires. You smile, though it feels like someone else guiding your mouth, shaping your joy. Around you, the moss glows brighter, rising in slow waves that brush your ankles, calves, hips, until you're cocooned in living green. It murmurs to you in soft syllables, telling stories of towers you've yet to climb. When the glow fades, you stand alone on dark soil. The tower is there again, closer than before. Its walls rise with shifting carvings that breathe, exhaling fine dust that settles on your shoulders like blessings or curses. You step toward it, feeling the ground hum in recognition. Each footprint leaves behind tiny blooms that open, sigh, then wither, folding back into the waiting earth. They seem content to vanish, as if this is their sole purpose. At the tower's threshold, an arch of twisting gold frames the entrance. Figures stand on either side, draped in robes of moving shadow. Their faces are blank mirrors, reflecting your expectant, trembling expression back at you. They raise their hands in silent greeting, palms marked by slow turning spirals. You mimic the gesture, feeling a gentle pressure at your temples, like soft fingertips pressing their backs. It eases the anxious flutter in your chest.